I'm Mike Martin, and I'm proud to be the Chancellor of Louisiana State University. I'm proud to be the Chancellor every day, but particularly today, when we take a moment to start reflecting, celebrating, and recommitting to a great university. Let me start by just introducing a few of the many, many dignitaries we have with us today. And if they just stand and wave real quickly, President John Lombardi, President System back there. Thanks, John, for being here. Chancellor Bill Richardson from the Ag Center. Chancellor Jack Wise, I think I saw Jack come across the street. Jack, thanks for joining us. Good friend of mine and Emeritus Chancellor Paul Murrell is here. Where's Paul? Thanks, Paul. I think we have at least one board member. I think Scott Sternberger's here somewhere. Didn't I see you, Scott? Where are you? There you are. He's a big guy. You can't miss him. He looks like he's John Lombardi's bodyguard back there with those sunglasses on. The president of our Faculty Senate, Kevin Cope. And I didn't see, is Chad Gautreaux out here? Chad, there's Chad, President of the Staff Senate, and I'll introduce Stuart in a moment. This is a special time. As you know, we're having several conversations going on out here in front of the campus today. One is about the fiscal challenges we face, and we certainly do. But in reflecting on those fiscal challenges, I think it is a good time to reflect as we plan for the future on the last 150 years. And I would remind you that in the last 150 years, this fine institution has weathered some very heavy weather and some very big storms. It doesn't take difficult math to understand that we were created during the Civil War. John Malazzo with the bank will tell you, because he lived through them, three major depressions, 1873, 1893, 1929, and the current one. We've made it through two major world wars, several other conflicts, Reconstruction, a civil rights movement, and numerous budget changes. And yet we are still here, yet we are still a great university, and yet we will persevere because we have reflected, we have committed, and we will celebrate that. These are challenging times, but it's exactly at these times that we rise to the challenge. And so as we reflect and celebrate, let's not forget the fact that many people came before us. Many are still with us here today, but many who are not have made this the great university it is. We are here not to celebrate the past, however, but to celebrate the future, recognizing that the past has got us here. Every once in a while, when I have to remind myself about what I do in the morning, I go back to read some of the original language that created this institution. And here's one of my favorite phrases. It's out of the Morrill Act of 1862, which led to our being designated a land-grant university. And here's what it says in the core of what we are. The leading objective shall be, without excluding other scientific and classical studies, and including military tactics, to teach such branches of learning as related to agriculture and the mechanical arts in such a manner as the legislature of the state so prescribe, in order to promote, here's my favorite phrase, in order to promote the liberal and practical education of the industrial classes in the several pursuits and professions of life. That's what we're about. And over time, that mission has evolved. Over time, that mission has been expanded. In 1887, we were told by the Hatch Act that we shall, as well as doing that, be a place that does research and experimentation in the public interest. In 1914, in the Smith-Lever Act, we were told that along with doing those things for the industrial classes and doing research and experimentation in the public interest, we will also take the university to where they live through a very impressive network of outreach and engagement systems. And so over time we've continued to evolve, and over time we've continued to meet difficult challenges, and we shall do it again. It will not necessarily be comfortable, but it is in our blood and in our marrow and in the mission that we have adopted as a great land-grant flagship university. So while there are those who would argue this is not a good day to celebrate as we face difficult challenges, I believe it's exactly the day to celebrate, to reflect, to recognize what must be done, and then to celebrate the fact that we know we will succeed. So with that, let me turn this over to our student body president, the president of student government, Stuart Watkins, for a few words on his behalf. Stuart?
Thank you, Chancellor Martin. You know, right now during LSU, we're faced with very complex times. A lot of people ask, what do we have to celebrate when state funds are limited and the credibility of our institution is compromised? I answer, let's celebrate the people, because it is the people of Louisiana State University that'll move this institution forward. Let's celebrate our achievements in the classroom. As a student, I celebrate the many professors and instructors. It is they who are the true leaders and visionaries of this great university. Always steadfast and willing, they challenge minds both young and old to think beyond the textbook. Because of them, we have made the U.S. News and World Report's top tier 2 years in a row. Since 2003, we have more Truman Scholarship winners than Columbia, Cornell, MIT, and Princeton, just to name a few. None of this would have been possible without their guidance and leadership. Now, if anyone ever tells you that getting a degree from LSU isn't exactly rocket science, tell them to tell that to National Space Hall of Famer Maxim Faget, class of 1943, the designer of the Mercury capsule that sent the first Americans into orbit. If anyone ever tries to tell you that getting a degree from LSU isn't exactly brain surgery, tell them to talk to Larry Arthur, class of 1970, who is the Associate Director of AIDS Vaccine Program at the National Cancer Institute. Our alumni have won Academy Awards, recorded platinum-selling records, and have designed for the stars. Our graduates have gone on to write New York Times bestsellers, restore some of Washington, D.C.'s most prominent landmarks, get a president elected, and have even been elected to numerous political offices themselves. So just what do we have to celebrate at LSU these days? We celebrate the alumni that have gone before us and written their pages in history books. We celebrate the highest ranking woman in U.S. Air Force history who received her diploma in 1973. We celebrate the U.S. Marine Corps general who led the 3rd Marine Division during the Battle of Iwo Jima, who received his degree in 1917. And we celebrate the students of today and tomorrow whose futures are yet to be written. Let's celebrate students from near and far, international students who came to America and LSU to better their lives. Students from Louisiana, whom after receiving their degree want to stay in Louisiana to make our home a better place. My years at LSU have shaped me, have molded me, and have given me what I need to succeed. They have given me the tiger spirit, and I, like my peers, will proudly bleed purple and gold for the rest of my life. No matter where you go in life, and no matter what happens to you, remember, no one will ever be able to remove that spirit. The students here have had it for 150 years and will have it 150 more. As we look towards the future, I have one simple phrase: forever LSU. Thank you so much, and at this time I'd like to introduce Congressman Henson Moore. Thank you.
We're supposed to reflect and we're supposed to celebrate and commit in this year of the 150th anniversary of LSU. Stop and think for a minute that in January of 1867, 19 young men and 5 faculty members met in Pineville, Louisiana, and that was the start of LSU. For them, they are but a memory, but LSU has been, in fact, forever. It's lived beyond them. They couldn't recognize what we're celebrating here today as being something even possible or imaginable back in that day and time. I was a student here in 1960 when we had the celebration of the centennial. Here I am today as a volunteer with the Forever LSU campaign coming back for its 150th anniversary. I don't think I'm going to be around to see the bicentennial, but I've got a granddaughter who's going to enroll in LSU next year, and she will be. And so for the Moore family, LSU has been sort of forever. It goes on beyond our lifetimes. And that's the whole point we're celebrating, is this institution really is forever. It has been here for a long time. It's going to be here for a long time further. And as long as there's a Louisiana, as long as there's the United States, there's going to be an LSU. It'll be here forever. But to do that, we have to do the third thing, and that's commit. We're seeing funding problems today. These aren't going away. I think we're going to be living with these for a long time. I think that basically we've got to do something that we've never really done in that past 150 years. And that's have an awakening that if we're going to stay a flagship university, if we're going to stay a top-tier ranked university, we're going to have to individually commit and to begin to build a culture of giving back, no matter what the amount, but to give back. That's going to be the difference in us having the funding we need, not to eliminate professors, not to eliminate scholarships, not to be able to not have the facilities that we need, but quite the contrary, to have all of those things. It's not going to come by way of state money, I don't think. I think it's going to come by way of us giving back to this university and seeing to it it celebrates its bicentennial and way even beyond that. And it's truly an LSU for forever. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that's the thing that we need to carry out in this 150th year, is to spread that word to everyone who cares about this university, that they really do need to give back, not just this year, but every year from now on, whether it's $5 or $5,000 or whatever it can be afforded. That's what it's going to take to keep the ranking we have, to build on it, and to be even ranked higher in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, forever LSU means us. It means us committing to this great university for the future. Now I'd like to introduce to you a great graduate of LSU, Perry J. Franklin Sr., who's the president of Franklin Industries and the current president of the AP 2.0 Senior LSU Black Alumni Association.
I tell you, if I had a bucket list, one of them would have been to sit in front of the Bengal Brass Band. That was fantastic, ladies and gentlemen. What an honor to sit in front of that band and hear those rich horns this morning. Thank you for allowing me to speak this morning, to give you just a little bit of a bird's eye view of a native Baton Rougean who looked at this university all of his life and came to love it and continues to love it today. I sort of treated LSU as my backyard growing up, playing in that grass field, rolling around in the other fields in the area, swimming in the, learning how to swim in the pool that I hope gets renovated one day. This is home for me. And so I was asked to give a few comments about the importance of LSU's sesquicentennial celebration and what does it mean to an alumnus of LSU. This is a very special time because it's a year in which we'll reflect and celebrate, but more importantly, recommit to what this university means to all of us. LSU is a gumbo. LSU reflects so many different people's backgrounds and races and ethnicities and socioeconomic statuses in the world. And all of those individuals are assembled on this campus. And so people come here with their own stories. And so I'm not going to bore you too much with my story, but talk about the greatness of LSU and what does it really mean. It doesn't mean one's story or her story or his story. It means all of our stories. And so I have another greeting, and that's on behalf of the chapter I'm the president of, the AP 2.0 Senior Black Alumni Chapter of the LSU Alumni Association. In an effort to bring diversity to a greater forefront, this chapter's mission is to ensure that all voices are reflected and heard, and we are up to that task of doing that. When I talk about LSU, it wasn't always my university of choice, as I came from a family where all my parents were graduates, but they were graduates of historically black colleges and universities. Xavier University for my mother, Southern University for my father, Southern University for my two older brothers. And so it wasn't until I started to experience LSU personally that I realized what was here for me. My story began when I was 12 years old, if you can believe it. I have a 12-year-old daughter right now in the 7th grade at Sacred Heart, and I couldn't imagine dropping her off at 12 noon at the corner of Alex Box Stadium and say, I'll pick you back up at 11 when the game is over. But that was my first experience on campus. I couldn't afford to buy tickets to the game, and so I figured out I can be a peanut vendor. And I knew every rat hole in that stadium. I knew how to scale every fence around that stadium. I sold more peanuts than probably any other person who was 15. Now, don't go back in the records and get somebody in trouble, but I was 12 when I started doing that. And it taught me a lot about myself. It taught me a lot about this university. It taught me a lot about business, marketing, networking, how to close a deal, how to also sit down when they're about to snap the ball. And I learned a lot about life and what it meant to be here at LSU. And so that started getting my wheels turning a little bit about what I wanted to do when I would grow up. Then I started hearing some stories. I actually started hearing the stories of AP 2.0 Jr. in my household. Little did I know that actually that was my mother's boyfriend when he was coming up to LSU. And so I kind of got some behind-the-scenes stories of what that was really about and his trials and tribulations as the first African-American student to be enrolled in the undergraduate program here on campus. Then I began to hear the stories of my neighbor, Dr. Dupie Anderson. He put his daughter here in 1964 when she was one of the first black students to be enrolled and made it through in 1964. And then I had this crazy love about LSU when I was in the stadium and riding my bike through the campus and skateboarding, things of that nature. And so all of those stories sort of give me my story. But there are hundreds of thousands of stories like that when you add up all of the students who have come and gone, all of the professors who have come and gone, all of the individuals who have helped to build this fine institution. Everybody has their story. So when we talk about 150 years, we talk about reflecting on the past that has brought us to this day, celebrating those successes and those victories, but more importantly, recommitting ourselves to a brighter LSU tomorrow. LSU, as all the speakers have mentioned, are facing many tough decisions. But I'm here to say that running an institution, you face those tough challenges every day. And universities across this great country face these challenges every day. And that's part of it. But we have the pedigree and the history that will bode well as we make these tough decisions going forward. Forever LSU is something that's a part of myself personally and my peers, and hopefully for those who have yet to come to this campus. But we just need to take a moment and just kind of turn off the BlackBerries, turn off the iPhones, and just reflect on what has happened on this sacred place and what can happen in the next 150 years. And so the question is, what will we do when we have an opportunity to answer a tough question or a tough call for LSU? What will we do? Will we rise to the challenge, or we sort of say turn a blind eye and act like it's not our problem or our issue? It's all of our issues. It's all of our problems. It's all of our concerns. And so I invite you to recommit yourself as LSU walks through this year of the sesquicentennial celebration, but more importantly after this year, after 2010, and really reflect and remind yourself what this institution means to you personally, to this community, and to the state of Louisiana.
As you know, this celebration of the sesquicentennial starts today but lasts throughout this year, this calendar year. And there are many, many other events which we will organize or will be organized around it. I was going to read off a list, but rather what I think I'll do is go high-tech here and encourage you to visit the webpage www.lsu150.com. And stay tuned, because it is important that you participate with us. This is a community celebration and a chance for all of us in very, very different ways, in many ways, to celebrate that. Now what I'd like to do is introduce our sponsors and ask them to come up and join me, because in just a moment we're going to roll a big cake out from some direction, right guys back there? And they can help distribute the cake. And what I want to say about the sponsors is this. One of the things I've learned in my 18 months here is that there are very generous organizations and individuals in this community. And in some ways, the bad news is we always go back to them. They call, they all know, Darian, you guys are front, no, we'll call you with great regularity. That's maybe the bad news for them. The good news for us is they always answer the call. And so they continue to help us make these events happen. And so I want them to come up and join me. From AT&T, Kathy Miller. From Blue Cross Blue Shield, Diane Isink. Thank you, Diane. From Campus Federal, John Malazzo, who I mentioned earlier, the money band. From Raising Cane's, we have Gwen Graves, the spouse of, I suppose the partner of, the head honcho at Raising Cane's. The dog's mom. From Coca-Cola, Darian Schutz. Darian, we see you all the time as well. From Entergy, Steve Shurik. And from ExxonMobil, Stephen Bloom. Thanks, guys, and thank you. Please give these folks a very, very, very generous round of applause.